It is Tuesday, the 5th of August. Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining me. We've got high pressure around the South Island and up to the north in the subtropics. We've got a low pressure zone. So a fair bit of cloud across the country at the moment. A lot of that is just thick, high cloud, gloomy kind of weather, but not necessarily wet. We have a bit of an easterly flow at the top part of the North Island, so around Coromandel Peninsula, some parts of Auckland and eastern parts of Northland. There are a few showers around at the moment, but most of the thundery stuff is well to the north of New Zealand and going up further towards the tropics. So while it looks ominous, high pressure is still the main feature. And there's another big high coming in this weekend, but perhaps a little bit of rain trapped between the two. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's kick off now with the wind map, and this one shows the UV rays at lunchtime today. So up here in the north of Fiji, going up to the equator and north of that into the northern hemisphere, that is the highest concentration of UV rays in the extreme level. Drop down to our part of the world, and the greens and the yellows at the lower end of the scale. Low is the current rating for New Zealand. Go over to Australia, low to moderate. The only area with high UV rays, the extreme northern tip of the far north Queensland area. So we've got high pressure in control of our weather, but you can see that easterly flow at the top. That's the reason why we are seeing just a few showers in the mix. But most of the heavy stuff, the thunderstorms are well north of New Zealand, and another thundery area just leaving Tasmania with a cold front today. But that is running into that wall of high pressure, so that is not just zipping our way. Let's have a look at noon Wednesday. So that thundery weather leaving Tasmania is now out at sea. As you can see, it's not overly impressive on the rain map, but there are a few heavy showers in there, well offshore. The low to the north is weakening further, but look at the airflow. This is Fiji, over here is Samoa. So this is coming from around Samoa and French Polynesia and drifting down into the New Zealand area. It's a little messy. Most of that subtropical energy is mostly just north of the country, but that is the reason why we're seeing that energy up there. And as the high over New Zealand moves eastwards in the days ahead, this northerly flow comes through and across the country. That removes the risk of frosts in many places as a breeze starts to develop here and there around the country. So by Thursday, the high is offshore, east of the Chatham Islands now, and the airflow, like I mentioned, coming from the tropical areas and drifting down towards us. So the temperatures are going up. You'll especially notice that in the overnight temperatures. A few showers, still a bit cloudy around the top of the country. Cloudy areas, in fact, in a number of regions. Driest weather will be in the east and the mildest as well as those northwesterly winds develop. Now those thunderstorms that exited Australia today, by Thursday, coming into Fiordland and southwestland. And this is where we've got this rain coming in for Friday, because you've got one big high to the east, the next big high to the west over Victoria, and the wet weather in the middle. Like, think of it as a car stuck between two big trucks. So that can't go anywhere. It's just sort of has to be jammed in between the two. So by the time we get to Friday, the next big high coming into the southeast corner of Australia, the other big high just east of the Chatham Islands. So this is that area, like a car stuck between two trucks, the rain stuck between two big highs. So it depends on the movement of those two enormous highs to work out the movement of the rain, which means rain could stall in some places this weekend and become heavier than forecast. You're also seeing some brighter areas here on the rain map, Mount Taranaki, Waikato, Auckland and Northland showing up. So there might be some isolated thunderstorms or downpours as a result of this instability in here. It's being squashed between two different airflows, subtropical one on one side and the colder southerly on the other. That makes a line of convergence where those rain clouds build up. But there is a colder change arriving here in the south. So while there is some low pressure in central New Zealand on Friday and some rain and showers around, there's also a colder southerly change that's about to move on through. So by noon Saturday, that goes right up to Waikato, Bay of Plenty, Coromandel Peninsula, basically on the edge of Auckland. So everyone will feel the temperature dropping going through the weekend. That will bring frost back into the South Island once the winds start to fade out and calm down. Really enormous high pressure zone, 1039 hectopascals there on Saturday. You can still see some low pressure stuck between the two highs. So that's the area that might slow down. The modelling all week has been pretty consistent that it does move out to sea on Saturday, but just keep in mind, two big highs control that movement of that wet weather, so it's possible it could linger. But at this stage, that next high is rolling on in pretty quickly. The southerlies roll through the country, and the showers move up the eastern side and to the very north. By Sunday, low pressure deepens out to the east of the country, but that doesn't matter so much because our high is coming in. So that means along the eastern side of the North Island, that's the only area really seeing showers continuing, which is not the best news for some areas there. Plenty of people are complaining about how wet it's been, how gloomy it's been, from East Cape all the way down to about Waited Upper. There are some pockets of Hawke's Bay that have not had a lot of rain. This is not going to do much to help you in that area. So for most people, this may be a bit frustrating to have more showers continuing. But the sun comes out around Waikato, Bay of Plenty, the top of the country, Taranaki borderline, and then into the South Island, the high pressure zone is coming on through for you. So apart from maybe a couple of isolated showers, probably around Banks Peninsula area, maybe coming inland a wee bit, it looks mostly dry. And by Monday of next week, the next big, powerful high over the top of the South Island, or at least very close to it. The top of the North Island still cold and still showery along the eastern side of the North Island, I'm sorry to say. For those of you that are wanting some sunny, beautiful weather, you don't really have it in the forecast. Most other places do, although there is a southeasterly flow coming up to the top of the country that might just clip Coromandel Peninsula, Great Barrier Island, the Bay of Islands, those sorts of areas. So there's a few things going on, and the last thing to end on is that low to the north, sort of a repeat performance of what we're seeing today. Now next week's low might be a little bigger, and it may come down a little closer to us because the center of this high is further south. So while it looks similar to this week, the main difference is everything's dropped down a notch or two. So as we go through next week, we'll be monitoring that low to see will it come into the top of the North Island at some point. But for now, colder weather comes back in this weekend after some wet weather at the end of the week. That is all from me. See you again tomorrow Wednesday with our next New Zealand update.